All right, welcome back to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen, the Next Goal Wins podcast. Before we get started, once again, make sure you follow us on the TikTok, on the Instagram, on the Facebook, on the Twitter, on the YouTube. I feel like every single time we're adding a little
Spotify
and Apple Podcasts, because we're actually on Apple Podcasts as well, if that's where you get your podcasts.
Are we?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So all of the social media is at the NGW Podcast. Also, I did take Joe's advice. We have a YouTube channel.
One second. I just want to note this. 10:57 Thursday, December 7th. Javi took Joe's advice. All right, cool.
Wait,
Listen, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at.
Jojo, do you remember what I told you about Javi?
What?
That's what I was gonna say.
You tell him something, he's gonna say no at the moment. After a week, he's like, "Oh, we should do this," and takes it in as like he thought about it.
No. I just gave him credit.
I'm not.
So
you did say that.
Here's what it is.
Oh, sorry. We need to do the pre-cap. I bet.
No. But what I'm saying is that the point I was trying to make is that we have created a new YouTube channel specifically for the NGW podcast, so the Next Goal Wins podcast. It's up. I got to figure out what the best way to upload is because it takes me like 6 hours to upload a video because of how big the file sizes are.
Damn.
So we'll figure it out. But I will leave all of that in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And then, yeah, we'll make sure it's out there for you guys to be able to access pretty quickly.
Damn, that's crazy. It takes us like 6 hours to get started, 6 hours to actually go through a podcast, and then 6 hours for you to edit.
So typically, we're supposed to start recording the podcast around 7:30ish. Once again, it is almost 11 o'clock at night, and we barely just started. But the reason why we barely just started this time is because we were trying to figure out how to go on TikTok Live.
And we did. Well, we didn't figure it out. You figured it out.
It was a team effort.
What, March?
It was a team effort.
I did. I feel like I did.
Georgie and Joe were this close to not believing in me, to just completely getting their car keys and going home. But we figured it out. So what we're going to try and do is before each podcast recording, we're going to maybe spend 10, 15 minutes on TikTok Live so that you guys can ask us some questions. We can kind of interact and respond back, and then we'll shut off the live and we'll actually record the podcast so you can... and then you'll listen to the podcast the next day or so.
And we do plan on doing YouTube lives as well, obviously.
Yeah. YouTube lives, we'll do the watch-alongs. For when we actually watch some Premier League games.
That'd be fun.
Cool. All right. So intro's out of the way. Do you guys want to get started?
Yeah.
Today should be a fun one. Today I'm excited about today.
Oh.
I did some planning. So let's go through the segments. Okay. Well, first of all, we'll go through the pre-cap. All right. Pre-cap is all of the stuff that we're going to talk about. Before we talk about it,
please do let me know because I have no idea.
First of all, we have a couple of segment additions, new segments on this podcast.
Oh man!
The first one is called the BS segment edition, or the BS
sponsored
segment,
by George Chomakov and Champion Grant.
The next one is called the wild card segment. All right, and that's more just random topics that aren't necessarily going on through the Premier League or whatever, but just random topics that we can talk about. We're going to go through, I think it's pretty, we're at a good point to finally start talking about some Premier League predictions in terms of who's going to win it and Champions League. I think we're at that point where we can start making some early predictions.
Yeah.
Early predictions.
Champions League, but...
We'll talk a little bit about Manchester United beating Chelsea. Man City losing to Aston Villa. Newcastle losing to Everton. And Tottenham losing to West Ham. So those are the games that just recently happened. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then also... Obviously, because we have a couple of Arsenal fans here. The Arsenal comeback versus Luton. All right? So that's the pre-cap. All right?
We got a lot.
Before we get into the actual Premier League, we actually get into the Premier League, I want to make sure that I think we hold ourselves accountable. All right?
Uh-oh.
We, every once in a great while, have some pretty bad takes.
Hey, he's looking at me, so this is good.
I already know where this is going.
I think it's important that we hold ourselves accountable and we respond to these takes. And we justify our actions.
I saw the comments.
All right, first of all, so that's why it's called the BS segment. All right, were we talking BS? Were we not talking BS? We'll give you an opportunity to explain yourself. First of all, I'm gonna shift this on myself. I said a statistic about the biggest stadium in the world.
Oh yeah,
right? I said that there's a stadium in North Korea that was the biggest football-specific, soccer-specific stadium in the world. And I said the capacity was 150,000. So where I got this wrong was that it's technically not soccer/football specific. However, it was designed originally for that purpose. Not to be specific, but that was the main event that was supposed to be there. Just like Wembley or all of these stadiums are meant for that, but then they still host other events on top of that. All right, so partly BS. I don't take full.
Yeah, so Javi's trying to find a way out. So it was built for that, but other things come into
the other thing that I was wrong was I think it originally had 150,000 seating capacity, which now it's at like 115,000 for whatever reason. I don't know if they did like construction, they added some stuff, and they had to take out seats for it. But I don't believe it's actually 150,000 anymore.
Okay.
When it was built, it was 150,000.
We accept your apology.
So you lied twice in one minute.
Yes.
And he's the one that gets to prepare.
So
Sure.
enough talking from me about my BS. The next BS, Georgie, do you want to call him out or what? Just do it.
Joe.
I'm excited for it.
Actually, what was the question? I don't even remember. No,
So which player did you? So the take was, which player did you feel did not reach his potential for whatever reason to be one of those special players in history?
And you said Suarez.
I did.
The comments. I looked at the comments.
Destroyed him.
I'm a comments guy.
On what, TikTok?
Oh man, if you go on there,
I don't have TikTok.
We have probably pretty close
to
to like 200 comments on that. I don't know how many. It's like in the hundreds range, I think.
I think so.
Most of them calling out Joe for saying Suarez was the one guy that did not reach his potential.
You want me to defend why I said it?
I mean,
If you want to defend it,
I guess, I'll defend it. Because in terms of reaching what I think he could have been, I think he could have gone down as one of the all-time, not as greatest strikers of all time, because I think he will go down as that, but one of the all-time greatest players. Because when you look at what he did with Sturridge, and I know he continued to do it for a little bit at Barcelona as well, he was, I believe, unstoppable. And yes, that Barcelona team that he joined was great, and he did great there. I still believe, and even I was surprised the comments got after me that much. Yeah, I really am.
Look, my phone's charging, but I would honestly go in the comments right now and read some out.
I believe you. I don't think you're lying.
I will tell you what people's biggest upset, or the part that upset people the most, was the fact that in his time, while the whole Messi and CR7 dominance was going on,
he was winning.
He managed to steal 2 golden boots from them. And people were saying he is one of the greatest number 9s in history, especially when he was playing at Barcelona.
But I agree with that statement, and I don't think a lot of people think that. I guess clearly I was wrong if that many people threw that in the comments. But when I talk to people and we talk about great strikers, some people will mention him, but he's not what people necessarily think of right away. They'll go and they'll say people like, obviously, the original Ronaldo, Thierry Henry, Wayne Rooney, like random people like that. When I look at Suarez, and he's, in my opinion, way better than Wayne Rooney was, up there with people like Thierry Henry. You don't think so?
I just think, I guess, maybe the question, the reason why I don't think he fits that question was because I do think he got pretty close to his potential, which was very, very good. One of the best number 9s probably of all time. I wouldn't say in the top 3 or in the top 5, but I'd say you could probably make an argument for being in the top 10 number 9s of all time. So I think the question was more geared towards like the players that had the ability that never really showed it.
That's fair.
There was a couple people that
in terms of his ability, I mean, he showed what he's capable of. I just would have liked to see it for longer because of how
I think there's like
how dominant he truly was. He was, things he did were literally unbelievable. I watched games like I would rewind it because I couldn't believe what he did. I remember he scored a header for Liverpool. He was, I think, 20 yards out.
18-yard box.
So I think that's
unbelievable.
But I think that's why people gave you so much hate in the comment section, was because they did see that side of him and they did feel like for long enough he was a great striker.
That's fair. Well, I appreciate the chat holding me accountable, and I appreciate you, Javi, for bringing it back up.
He was one of the best players in the world at one point.
Yes.
100%.
Well, if you steal 2 golden boots from the time where Messi and Ronaldo are dominating, then I think you're definitely up there. So
Liverpool players are just the greatest, man. Like, okay, I can't.
So I guess the question, Joe, is: were you wrong or were you not wrong?
What was the original question again?
Like, do you still defend the fact that Suarez? You feel like Suarez fits that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll stick with it.
All right. Good man.
Damn, the comments are about to
destroy
explode.
him again, ladies and gentlemen. Destroy him again. All right. Should we get into some Premier League action?
Wait.
Oh, there's another one?
No. I'm just gonna say this. Every single time we do a podcast, or it's before, not in front of the camera,
Oh, here we go.
I get called the BS guy, and here we are, two of you.
You just got lucky that this time I didn't specifically choose any of your terrible takes about Darwin Núñez.
There are not any that I have said that are lies. Everything is stat based. Your stat was I don't know where you got your stat from. I don't know, just opinion. I guess.
So Georgie wins this. Georgie wins this round because there wasn't any clear terrible takes from you.
I'm excited to see what happens in the next 90
Just give him enough time. Darwin Núñez is going to be... There's enough Darwin Núñez takes from Georgie that qualify for that segment. Should we get into the Premier League, or do you guys want to go into the wild card segment?
I mean, wild card, because I don't know what that is.
Well, that's actually the one that I told you guys to think about. Most underrated, most overrated. You want to get into that right now? Let's get into it. So I asked these guys before we came on to think about the most underrated players in history, or their most underrated player, at least in our era that we watched, and the most overrated. So, Georgie, what did you come up with?
I didn't come up with anything in terms of overrated, because it's very hard to judge on because you can be
just somebody who's hyped up more than you think that they should be hyped up.
But that's the thing. Some players were hyped up and then they got injured and then they never fulfilled their potential. So you can't really say they were overrated because of the injury. But
that's not somebody you would answer, though. You would answer somebody that played their careers. You were like, I don't see why everybody thinks that they're this good.
Oh, that's not what I came.
So let's just go into it. So,
well, the players I picked, I thought back to when they were signed for their clubs, and they were super hyped. Looking back on it now, I think when I give you these names, most people will be like, okay, makes sense.
That's fair.
However, and one's an Arsenal player and one's a Liverpool player.
Well,
where do you want to start? You want to start with Arsenal
to Chelsea, I assume.
Huh?
Torres to Chelsea.
It's a good guess, but no. First one, from an overrated standpoint, who, when this transfer happened, people thought he was going to be great, help lead the league in scoring, help take Liverpool to the next level, and that was the one and only, the original long flowing hair man bun, Andy Carroll.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Because back when he made that transfer, everyone was, now finally Liverpool has a strong striker, that he's going to be able to win balls in the air.
I wasn't excited about the transfer. I didn't like it, but
he was hyped.
He was hyped.
He was hyped
because he was good at Newcastle.
Probably after that, he kind of started turning into more of a joke than anything else. Like, people joke about Andy Carroll now, and they put him in the same category as, like, Nicholas Bentner and Emil Heskey.
Okay, don't talk about Heskey like that.
I'm just saying.
Heskey's...
I'm surprised to hear you talk about Lord Bentner like that, too.
I am an Arsenal fan, but...
I mean, I can see that, but
But he wasn't hyped up to be like the greatest in the world, and then fell flat on his face. That's why I was like, depending on how you think of the question, interpret the question. But in terms of at the time when that transfer happened and what people are expecting and what they got,
I mean, just think
not great.
Look, I think Torres was one of the best players when he was at Liverpool. But when he went to Chelsea, the amount of money they paid for him at the time was a lot of money.
100%.
And they expected what he did at Liverpool to be done at Chelsea, and it was nowhere near.
I was just thinking about it more from a perspective of, like, it was shown that they weren't as good as everyone thought they were.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that they had amazing seasons and then they had bad seasons, because that happens to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has really good seasons and then 1 or 2 bad seasons or whatever, or they fall off because they start getting old. I was just thinking more so about, like, players got exposed. When I think about that, I think of players like Cucurella at the beginning when he went to Chelsea. Everybody was, like, kind of hyping him up. He went to Chelsea and he had a nightmare at the beginning, and everybody was like, this is the guy that we bought, and now he's been doing better. But I'm just talking about from that standpoint where you kind of get exposed when they go and make a transfer. Or at the end of it all, you're like, they weren't really as good as everyone thought they were going to be. Freddie Adu.
Freddie was the one I was thinking about, but like Freddie his career was supposed to be
super hyped.
I just don't like to call people's names, man, because it's.
We're just talking. But okay, so most overrated for Joe was Andy Carroll. Georgie, do you have anyone, or you want to skip?
Yeah, I'm skipping that one.
See, it's easy to not get called out if you skip the question.
Exactly. I was gonna say you can only skip one.
No, I'll do underrated. I'll do underrated.
I know, but this still technically counts as a skip. You can't skip. You get like one skip per like 2 or 3 podcasts on questions. Otherwise, you have to. Otherwise, we're gonna have to replace you.
This is a skip. This is his last skip of 2023.
I have a controversial one.
All right.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I have a controversial one, and I'm probably gonna get absolutely.
Is it a Man United player?
Yes.
Okay, I already know. See, that's the one I was gonna think.
It's a Manchester United player who, not saying that they're not good. I'm not saying that they're a bad player. What I'm saying is that they're not as good as everyone makes them out to seem.
I think I know who you're. Current player?
Nope.
No.
Ooh,
back in the day, unless Sir Alex went to United States.
No.
Oh, okay. We're talking about a different player.
No. Central midfielder. Regarded as probably the most influential central midfielder for Manchester United. Paul Scholes.
Okay, no, come on.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Overrated?
Yes, I'm going to tell you why.
Wow.
I watched Paul Scholes, and he was a good player. Don't get me wrong. He was a good player. I'm not saying he wasn't a good player. I think he was probably still one of the best players for Manchester United. However, when you compare him against some of the best central midfielders of all time, I don't think he is in that conversation. And I think Paul Scholes, when I watched him play, I am surprised how that guy did not get a red card every single match. He just came in and just 2-foot tackled everyone.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's
passing
what it was back in the day.
I was say it was different back then, but
yeah, but still, I would watch him and I would see this guy.
These comments are gonna eat your life.
yeah, wow.
I wanted to.
This is borderline Suarez.
Sure.
Bold move.
No. I'm not comparing him to all of the other center midfielders in the world. I'm comparing him to the very best central midfielders in history. So I'm talking about like Stevie G. I think he's much better. I think Stevie G's better than Paul Scholes.
Well, see, that's the thing. They're
slightly different position.
Obviously, I'm a Liverpool fan, and Steven Gerrard is my favorite player of all time. However, the two are Steven Gerrard is box to box. The guy can do absolutely anything and everything on the field. Paul Scholes is more of a defensive mid maestro
He's more
player.
of 6.
He's more like a Pirlo type of a player where he distributes, and then that's it. Where Stevie G did everything.
Right. I'm just saying, like, everyone makes him seem like he is like top 3 all time or top 5. I don't think so. I think Pirlo was better than him. I think Pirlo was a much better central midfielder than Paul Scholes. I'm trying to think of another really, really good 6. I just don't see Paul Scholes as being the best player.
But that doesn't make him overrated.
I think that makes him slightly overrated.
Wow. See,
slightly.
Okay, I'm not going to even name my guy who I was thinking about.
Vieira.
Vieira's overrated?
No. I'm saying like Vieira's better than Paul Scholes. Again, maybe a little bit more. Yaya Toure. I think Yaya Toure was better
than Paul Scholes.
Mm-hmm. I really think about it, if I sat down and made a list, I could probably think about 3 or 4 other central midfielders who I thought were better than Paul Scholes. I thought Paul Scholes was slightly overrated in terms of that conversation just because of how aggressive he was, and people used to like that back in the day.
I don't know, man.
I feel like that's that's kind of what made Paul Scholes so special, though, was because he was so aggressive, almost like a Gattuso-like aggressive, but then when he was on the ball, could distribute it like Pirlo. And the fact that he could do both, I just think about like people I would hate to play against. And those are the type of people, for me, I hated playing against, that not only are going to be annoying to play against when they have the ball, but also when they don't. But I was not expecting you to say Paul Scholes.
I would just say I feel like overly aggressive. Didn't need to be.
But isn't that...
I'd like to see how many red cards he got throughout his career.
Isn't that half the players back in the day? Like...
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, think of the videos of Cantona, for example.
Again, listen, I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying I don't think he's as good as when you talk... Every single time you talk about the best central midfielders in the Premier League, Paul Scholes' name comes up. And I don't think his name should come up. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair.
All right?
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay.
I was thinking of somebody completely different.
Who were you thinking that I was going to say?
I'm not going to say the name because then...
who do you say? Who do you think I was going to say?
Well, I thought you were going to say Beckham.
Okay. The only reason I didn't choose Beckham is because Beckham had a lot of clutch goals. Free kicks.
He did score from half, but...
and he had some assists. Do you remember that assist that he had for Real Madrid? The one where he gets it down the wing and he curves it all the way in the air, all the way around. I don't know who's running onto it, but
I think it was Zizou.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the most overrated players. All right, most underrated players. So I told you guys to each pick the most underrated player of all time, or not of all time, of our generation. Who did you guys pick?
You want to go or are you going to skip?
Well, no, I'm not going to skip. When I think of underrated, I think of, obviously, I'm going to pick my boy Firmino. Well, that's one of them. Just because.
Okay.
False nine. Nobody gives him the credit. He was the Liverpool system, supposedly fighting, battling it out against the best team to ever play, Manchester City under Pep, for 5 years, and he was the key to Liverpool's challenges, Champions Leagues, Premier Leagues in the 5 to 8 year span of like the Jurgen Klopp era. Jurgen Klopp came in when Firmino was first brought in as the false nine. The system started to click, and I don't think he gets enough credit just because he doesn't score as many goals as a striker, which was what another thing we've talked about before. In that system for Liverpool, he was the key. When Firmino wasn't on the field, it was a completely different game. That's one. Thomas Müller is another one that stands out. Just because he's a big name, but if you ask anybody, even me, I don't know what he's really good at.
Yeah.
But
his teammates have said the same thing.
Yeah.
He gets the assist. He's always in winning teams. He gets goals. He's always one of those players where when he's on the field, he makes things happen. And that's not, like, if I'm thinking like top 5 of this position, top 5 of this, I will never, like, Thomas Müller will not be anywhere near. But he's always been one of the best players when called upon and playing in crucial moments, Champions Leagues, Germany national team, anywhere he's played. So those are
good picks. Those are good picks. I agree with you on the Firmino, because I think I do think he doesn't get as much credit, and I've not talked shit about him, but I have given you shit about him. But I do think his role in that Liverpool system was key to their attack, and he probably doesn't get as much credit only because he doesn't score as many goals.
Yeah. I'd agree on. I think the Müller one's a really good one, and I'd also agree with Firmino, but the Müller one I think is really, really good. For sure, underrated. Absolutely amazing.
Because he's not fast.
Nope.
He's not strong. But I forget who it was. It was like Alphonso Davies or one of those guys was doing an interview, and they were talking. They said the exact same thing. They're like, you don't really know what he's good at, except his football IQ is so good, and he's in the right spots. That he just makes things happen, and he finishes the opportunities. And doesn't he have the record for the most goals in the World Cup?
No, Klose does.
Yeah, Mirza Klose, I think.
I thought Müller.
Klose passed his.
Somebody fact check us. This is also the problem with this podcast. There's only 3 of us. There's nobody behind the camera. Yeah. So anytime we say something, we can't really fact check it.
Yeah.
So somebody's got to. So
and my phone's done.
That's why the TikTok people and the YouTube people and all the you guys should be fact checking us. All right?
Yeah, I like that. But I mean, I don't like any big game. The guy's always there, gets always assist or a goal or involved in the play somehow. So,
Joe, who was your most underrated?
This one is more of a personal one because I hated watching him play for when he played for Arsenal, and has gone on to do a lot of great things since leaving.
I know who it is. Striker.
French striker. He is French.
Won a World Cup.
Olivier Giroud, I think, is somebody who, at the time at least, and I've been thinking, if you look at like his entirety of his career and all the things he's accomplished, he has accomplished a ton in terms of trophies, in terms of playing in multiple leagues. I believe he's the leading French goal scorer of all time over TT and Benzema, which is crazy.
Once again, please fact check us.
Fact check us on that. But I remember watching him when he was on Arsenal, and he was so frustrating and infuriating to watch because he's awkward. He's not fast. Not saying that he's weak, because he's not, but he's not like super strong in terms of like Lukaku strong or anything. And always seemed to get lucky. But when you continually get lucky for 5-10 years, it's not luck. You're just that good. So mine is Olivier Giroud.
I think that's a good one. I think mainly the reason is because the Arsenal system probably didn't fit him.
Yep.
To where at Milan it's much better.
Yeah. Same with France.
And France.
Yeah.
It's much better. So that's a good one.
I liked him at Chelsea too.
Even at Chelsea, he was pretty good.
He was scoring goals.
Even at Chelsea, he was pretty good.
Goals, yeah.
And now I feel like when he did leave for the next year or two, Chelsea failed to replace the goal scoring, which is why they struggled for the years to come. So it goes unnoticed when you're relying on service, because he does rely on service. But, somebody to whip it in the box and somebody to be there to provide that. And then, like Javi said, if the system doesn't provide that, doesn't play to that style, then it's very difficult for a striker to be scoring goals.
Although he did score one of the best goals in Arsenal history, the little back heel.
Scorpion kick.
But I feel like he scores
random worldlies all the time.
Amazing goals.
So that's a good one.
Yeah,
but even with him, he scores great goals. But we've talked about this on the podcast before, where his value I think comes in when he has wingers or a 10 or both to kind of run in behind as well as check in below. That's where he really succeeds and does well for the team because of his distribution and his hold up play. He can flick it on when 1 or 2 touches. He can hold it up, lay it off if need be. But
yep.
Who about you?
Mine, I don't know if people would consider this the most underrated or underrated. I'm just going to say once again, I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves. I'm going to give you a hint, and just by telling you the team name, you are going to know who it is.
It's a lot of pressure.
Barcelona.
Sergio Busquets.
Sergio Busquets does not get. Lately, he's gotten a lot more credit. I think in the last few years, he started getting a lot more credit because from when people really started breaking down the game in terms of like tactical analysis and that lens of watching the game, which wasn't really happening until the Pep Guardiola era at Barcelona, in my opinion at least. I think he wasn't getting as much credit up until that point. So Busquets does all of the dirty work. He does all of the simple things. And the other reason why I feel like he was underrated was because he had Xavi and Iniesta in front of him. Yeah. And when you have 2 players like that, plus Messi, plus all of the strikers that went through Barcelona during that time, Henry, Ibrahimovic, Alexis Sanchez, all of those players, obviously, if you're only doing not necessarily the simple stuff, but if you're not doing anything flashy, then you're not going to get as much credit as some of those guys.
Yeah.
Sergio Busquets was pivotal in their success at that time because he allowed Barcelona to get into positions higher up the field where all of those players could create and do a little bit more. Whereas I feel like if you don't have a player like that who can help you connect the play, Barcelona doesn't have as many opportunities going forward. Now, obviously, they were a team that was based on possession and moving the ball around. So eventually, I think they were going to get there. But I think he was the perfect central midfield player, the number 6, that allowed them to play the style that they wanted to play, that Pep wanted to play, and allowed all those players in front of him freedom. So, I mean, people say they watch him in training and they train with him, and a lot of the Inter Miami players are saying the same thing, is that you can't get the ball off of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anytime he gets the ball, and it's the crazy thing is if you watch the games, he looks like he's in acres of space by himself. He looks like what he's doing is super easy, and yet no team has still been able to make him look like a bad player.
I feel like he's so good at breaking the press, and I think people think like, oh, I can press him, and they try it for 5 minutes and realize there's no chance that they're gonna get the ball, and they make the decision for the rest of the game. It's wasted. It's wasted energy. Let me try and get the ball from somewhere else because I'm not getting it there. And then to your point, when you throw that in with Xavi and Iniesta,
I like that one.
It's a good one, right? It's a good one. Yeah. It's hard to appreciate a player like that because
you only appreciate it after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. So that ends it for our wild card segment.
Wow.
I think every episode we should have some sort of wild card segment where we just throw out a random question or a random topic, and that's what we talk about.
I like it.
Let's go into the Premier League. Shall we start with the predictions for who do we think is going to win and the Champions League and the Champions League spots, or should we go through some of the games that happened?
Let's go through the games first. Do you want to?
Yeah.
All right. So Man U beats Chelsea.
I did not watch that game at all because I was too busy watching every other game.
Did you watch it, Joe?
Not live, but I watched it after. Watched highlights after. It was. It's funny because on here we've trashed Man United and say we don't know what they're doing, what's going on, and we've praised Chelsea. Oh, they're moving in the right direction. Things look good. And then all of a sudden in that game, it's the exact opposite. United missed a penalty. Bruno missed a penalty, was saved early on, which you could argue was or wasn't a penalty. It was a weird one. Anthony got stomped on, but the ball had already left. Scott McTominay
could have had a hat trick.
Comes through. Yeah, he could have had 3 or 4 goals. He got stoned a few other times, but it was that was an ugly one, and it wasn't great to watch. I will say Cole Palmer's goal, though. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You haven't seen it at all?
No, I saw highlights.
It was smart. It was a smart goal.
So just a smart, smooth, easy finish. But it puts, Georgie, you brought this up. United now is only 3 points behind City.
It's crazy to think about.
And we've been talking about how Ten Hag has lost the locker room and everything else. So they continue to get points. They can continue to get points somehow in the Prem. So we'll see.
I will say that is the first time I've watched Manchester United and actually enjoyed watching them play. For me, they were attacking. They had some opportunities. They were taking it to Chelsea. And Chelsea's just all over the place. You can't break down Chelsea anymore at this point because you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get a fantastic tactical performance against Arsenal, and then you're going to have an absolute nightmare against Tottenham, which they end up getting lucky and somehow figure it out. And obviously Tottenham goes down 2 men, all that. And then you get a performance against Manchester United where it's, again, all over the place. And Manchester United, again, McTominay, Garnacho. Garnacho, by the way, he tried another bicycle kick. I don't know if you guys saw this. He tried another. He went to the stands. But I actually thought that was the first time that Manchester United has played attacking football. I'm going to say that. I think that's the first time they've done it. And at least the games that I've watched.
Between Antony and Garnacho, they did have a few decent chances.
Garnacho had a good game. He got on the ball a lot.
Yeah.
He created a lot of opportunities.
I like Garnacho.
I just think it's funny that you go from parking the bus against Newcastle, and then you go and actually take it to Chelsea. And again, McTominay could have had a hat trick. But I don't know. Is it a one-off performance? Is it going to continue that way? Is it just based on their opponents? Which brings us also into the conspiracy theory section of this. Georgie has been doing lots of research. He's been talking to multiple reporters.
Oh, gosh, here we go.
Georgie believes that it's true that Manchester United, Ten Hag, has lost 50% of the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, Sky Sports reporter, you can't, and by the way, they banned Sky Sports, Manchester News, and a bunch of other news outlets from coming to press conferences. So,
do you know why they banned them?
Because they didn't want stuff like that to happen.
No.
Because they didn't ask United for their side of the story. They said, hey, if you're going to post these things, that's fine, but come to us and let us at least give some context, share our side of it. He says it's pretty unfair to post a story as a legit news outlet and not get comments from both sides, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think there's truth to it. There's no way there isn't.
And then the United stand that had Antony on it?
Yep.
So
Did you see the quotes?
No, I didn't see the quotes.
I
But were they in relation to the locker room situation, or were they in just general game stuff?
I think there's a mix of both. I don't remember any of the quotes or anything.
But do you think he went on the United stand, which is like a fan account, which is like a supporters group? Do you think he went on that to kind of clarify what's going on in the locker room, or to show that there is actually, that it's not as bad as it seems from the outside, like actually getting somebody who's on the team to go on there and defend the club a little bit?
The thing with that is Anthony's never going to go against Ten Hag because he's the one that brought him in and that's his player.
Right.
So no matter what, whether it was Martinez or Anthony, they were never went against Ten Hag.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, though, is that amongst all of the negative press that's been going on around Manchester United lately, do you think Ten Hag and Manchester United thought it would be a good idea to send a player to go on to one of these? Especially the United stand is probably the most vocal when it comes to Manchester United information and team news and things like that. So do you think they purposely said, go on this and just kind of defend us a little bit so that it doesn't look as bad as it does? Because it looked pretty bad, to be honest.
Honestly, I don't think so. It's just one of those things that coincidence, maybe. I don't know.
I was going to say, I bet you it was probably just coincidence, because from a timing perspective, I would assume those guys had to have signed or asked Anthony to be on there a long time ago, but maybe not. I don't know.
I mean,
so
is that your conspiracy theory?
So no, that is my conspiracy theory. I'm just curious. Do you really believe? Because again, they banned these reporters, they banned Sky Sports and all these other people because they're not asking for Manchester United side of the story. So do you believe it's true that there are 50% of? Do you believe the players are actually going to these? To these outlets anonymously or whatever, or telling them to hide their names and saying that Ten Hag has lost 50% of the locker room?
I did. Yep. And the reason why I do is, did you hear what Matic said?
No.
I think it was
I did hear
yesterday.
that about people showing up late and
People
stuff.
showing up late. And,
that was before Ten Hag, though.
That was before Ten Hag, but he's talking about the culture at Manchester United, where players, it's like a very normal thing for. Actually, he named two players, Pogba and Sancho.
Yep.
They would show up late a decent amount of time to training. Everybody would be waiting for them to show up, and training wouldn't start, practice wouldn't start until they got there. And with all the fines, I think it went up to like 75K of fines, and that's a decent amount of fines. If you're getting 75K, that's a lot of fines.
It sounded like they were player suggested fines. It wasn't from the club. It was Matic and was the president of some committee or something and started.
So that's
fining.
usually what happens. The players are in charge of it, and then either you give it to the kit man or people in the staff, the kitchen people, or somebody within the team or a charity. Do you know what they wanted? What they planned doing with that money? They wanted to have a party. So in a sense, I heard this on the overlap. In a sense, they were showing up late, giving that money away.
Basically, just paying for the party.
Paying for the party.
Pay for yourself.
Well,
which if that was the culture at Manchester United, and Matic obviously played for Chelsea, he's moved on since. He said that's the most unprofessional environment he's ever been in, and that's from Matic, somebody that was there for years. He wasn't there under one manager. He was there and we don't know if it happened under because Matic was there under Mourinho and Van Gaal, if I'm not mistaken. I think it might have been those two.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I mean, when it's that much money going into the fine system, I do think it's messed up that they're using it for a party.
Yeah.
We had a fine system at DCFC, and that fine money went to a party at the end of the season. But the fines at DCFC were, I think at the end was like $300, $350, something like that.
It's not $75,000 to throw up.
So, and again,
party.
like Georgie says, they're player-led, so you typically have, anybody can fine anyone, right? So if Georgie forgets his boots at training, I can fine Georgie, and I can write a slip, and I give it to typically you give it to the coach, he approves it or whatever, and then that money gets put into a bucket or whatever. But yeah, if you're going to raise $75,000 of fines, you should probably be doing something other than
a party.
Yeah. That should go to charity. That, like you said, that should go to the kit men or
somebody,
the kitchen staff or support staff, right? So we believe that they have lost 50%.
Well, I mean,
or there's still those personalities.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't want to say it. I don't want to say half of the team because half is a lot. Yeah. But I do think Sancho's, Varane, Casemiro, who else? There's one more player that I named last time, I think. And once you have one or two people that are very unhappy, it's gonna start spreading if things are not going your way. Right now, for example, the one game we watched it was Newcastle. We had Luke Shaw start. We had Lindelof, Varane, two center backs not playing, and Luke Shaw, who's a left back, playing as a center back. So something's off. Some of these players are going to leave in January because something is very, very off. And whether the team is going to back Ten Hag long term, they need to get rid of a lot of these players because so many coaches have come and gone, and the same thing's happening over and over. They have the bounce back period, then they do absolutely, the results are not going their way. They bounce back somehow. They put 5-6 good results, and then they go downhill again. That's been the problem with Manchester United. Now, if you stick with Ten Hag, then possibly things change and he gets new players in. But you got to get rid of a lot of these players that are unhappy. By the way, Maguire, Player of the Month.
Oh, in November.
Happy.
Yeah. I think
he did play well.
I think they will though. I think they will get rid of some of those players. I also think you mentioned. As a player, you'd be upset because things aren't going well. They're only 3 points off the top four.
Yeah.
And that's the other crazy part about all of this. They're a good stretch of games away from cracking the top four with all of these problems going on, that if they can get some of those players out and get in a few new players, obviously they're not afraid of spending money. Very quickly, I think United have somehow put themselves in a spot where...
Do you guys think they can make top four? Okay, that's the next segment. Never mind.
Well, we could talk about that in a little bit, but I will say this, is that it's easier for the players who believe in Ten Hag, so let's say the 50% that are still with Ten Hag, it's easier for them to work harder and stay committed to the goal and not get corrupted by the other 50% when they're having good results regardless of whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. Because in their heads, they're also thinking if there are some bad apples in the squad, Ten Hag, they know that Ten Hag's trying to get rid of them, Sancho, Varane, all of those guys. So they're seeing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. They just need to get there. So they're having good performances, good results. Once they get rid of those, not 50%, but once they get rid of some of those players, Manchester United gets even better. So it is impressive because they have been performing, and you can say whatever you want about the opposition. At the end of the day, they just played Chelsea and they beat Chelsea.
Yeah.
Still, Chelsea's a hard team to beat. Arsenal couldn't do it. Chelsea's a hard team to beat.
Yeah.
Tottenham couldn't do it.
Oh, that's
so. What I'm saying is that for the players that are on Ten Hag's side, it's easier to see the light of the tunnel at the end of the tunnel when you're getting good results.
By the way, last thing about Manchester United, after the game, obviously good result, people playing their hearts out, whatever. There's a tweet that was liked by Luke Shaw that said Martial and Rashford shouldn't be nowhere near the starting 11 after this performance, and he liked it.
I hate that though. That's so annoying, right? Because now you're like,
but that's
you like something, and all of a sudden you're like, what are you trying to say?
What if you accidentally liked it? We've all done that. You're scrolling through something.
But that's again adding to the
adding to the fire, fueling the fire.
And now you're like Rashford's involved in all this.
It is disappointing to see Rashford struggle so much, especially after he was so great last season after the World Cup.
He's just always been, in my opinion, he's always been inconsistent.
Yeah.
Last year he was finding his form, and everybody was talking about how good he is, but he hasn't been able to do it long term for me, at least.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, he's 26 now. He's not the young boy that he was like 5 years ago. To where like, he's going through it.
He's still figuring it out. Yeah, no,
So let's once again move to the other side of Manchester. This is crazy. So Manchester City, 1 win in their last 5 matches. One of them was the Champions League, but they've lost. So since their last win against Bournemouth, they've played in the Premier League. They've played They've played Chelsea, tied 4-4, Liverpool 1-1, Tottenham 3-3, and then Aston Villa lost 1-0. So here's the stat that I wanted to share with you because this is kind of impressive. And I wonder if you guys have seen this on ESPN. Manchester City have lost 4 matches this season. 1-0 to Newcastle in the EFL Cup, 2-1 to Wolves in the Premier League, 1-0 to Arsenal in the Premier League, and 1-0 to Aston Villa in the Premier League. Rodri didn't feature in any of those matches.
Yeah.
I tweeted that. No Rodri, no party. The game. Before the game.
I think last season if they wouldn't be going through these same troubles without Rodri if they still had Gundogan, I believe.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Like when you lose Gundogan, De Bruyne gets hurt, you are now trying to patch everything else together, and Rodri's so pivotal for them, and they don't have anyone who can step in and do what he does. There's not many people in the world that can do what he does. But there's no one on that team that can step in and even do close to what he does for that team in terms of winning the ball back and then winning it and keeping possession to keep them on the front foot.
And Alvarez is playing as like a midfield trying to take Gundogan's spot, and that's not Alvarez. Alvarez is not going to be that player. So
he's decent at it, but he's not the same.
If Alvarez is your solution for Manchester City to be winning Premier League titles in the midfield, you're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. He's not that type of player. It's like making Haaland play midfield. Yeah, he's just not that type of player.
So this is not a coincidence to you guys at all.
I mean, he's
when he got. Is this the sole reason? Is this the sole reason that they're?
If they had De Bruyne, it'd be different. They would get some results from those games because they'd score enough goals. I think. I still think they would just be in a rough run of form, but I don't think they would. It would be.
What does that say about Kevin Phillips?
That's crazy, right?
He's nowhere near,
which is crazy. And then he plays for Southgate for England. It doesn't make.
He's just absolutely forgotten by Pep at this point. Yeah. I think Pep is also very. I wouldn't say he gives up on players, but like you were talking about, if you're not performing, like you don't get a chance, and you don't get many chances at Manchester City, in my opinion. Yeah. So I think Calvin Phillips, when he first came on, when he first came to Manchester City, there was a time, I don't know if it was first, but it was shortly after he had been there. He went on vacation, came back, and he was a couple of pounds overweight. Pep said that, and even he said that. Calvin Phillips said it. And he's like, oh, yeah, Pep wasn't happy. I went on holiday. I came back. I was a couple pounds overweight. I wonder if those are the situations that Pep just kind of is like,
I'm done.
I'm not even.
If you're not going to put in the effort, why would I?
If you can't even show up at the right weight for preseason or whatever after vacation, like, I'm not even you're not the type of player that I need to win a Premier League.
Yeah, I mean.
Because you think, all right.
You would think he gets a chance.
This is the perfect opportunity for Calvin Phillips to actually get some time because they struggle without Rodri. And still, nothing.
Well, they're putting center backs there normally now.
John Stones plays as a city.
John Stones, Akanji's played there.
You bring in the two youngsters
Rico
off the bench
and
Nunez.
There's Oscar Bob.
Oscar Bob, like some
best
players,
names, by the way, in all of football. Oscar Bob.
That is a huge insult to any player. That if you come to a team and you are, let's say, you were the number 6, right? You're number 6 for that team, and that is your position. And everybody knows that's your position. When you're not the starting 6, you can kind of accept it if there's somebody better than you. But that 6 gets injured or is out for whatever reason, and instead of you getting put on because you're the natural progression, the coach decides to take somebody from a different position and turn them into a 6 before you get any playing time.
And has tried multiple players from different positions. Bernardo Silva, who's not a true, I don't want to say he's playing as a 6, but he's playing against Liverpool. He played there, like as a center mid. Like John Stones, like a center back playing as a CDM, like you're taking, youngsters playing, Rico coming in. It's not a good look for Calvin Phillips.
Listen, so I just pulled up the lineup for that game, for the Villa game. They started Akanji and Stones as your 2 6s. Behind them, Guardiola, Diaz, and Walker. On the bench was Kovacic, Nunez, and Calvin Phillips. That he chose to start 2 defenders as holding midfielders instead of Kovacic, Nunez.
Kovacic is different,
and Phillips. Kovacic is coming back from injury, I believe.
Yeah, so it's a bit different.
But still, it's just
the Calvin Phillips thing, man. I mean, it is what it is.
At that level, you can't. I mean,
we talked about it. I think we talked about it on this podcast that we thought it was the wrong move for Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, and clearly it was because he was doing so well at Leeds.
He was one of the best players for England. What was it, the Euros?
But it's one of those things where you have to take the risk. Right? Like, you'll never know. You can't just say, I'm not going to go to Manchester City.
Because turned down to playing with Pep or playing for Pep.
It's the same thing as Graham Potter when he went to Chelsea. It's like you don't turn down Chelsea when you were at Brighton because you're like, oh, I mean, you could do it temporarily, but at some point you are going to make the jump.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's just the timing that is off or whatever. Maybe he needed one more season at Leeds or he needed to move to a different club first and then go to Manchester City. But clearly it hasn't worked out for him regardless.
I think never mind. We can move on from
Speaking about a different player at Manchester City, though, I will tell you one player who I don't think is going to succeed at Manchester City. And I think he's been exposed already. And even at the World Cup, I think he got a little exposed, is Guardiola. I don't like him.
Well,
I don't.
The reason so before the Manchester City bought him, he was amazing at Leipzig. Amazing. So I wanted Liverpool to go after him. And there were talks and links. I like him a lot as a center back. He hasn't played as a natural center back at Man City. He usually, like, whenever he does play, it's like a left, like, I don't want to say.
They play the back 3.
It's like the back 3, but he almost, when Rodri plays, he comes so far in that he goes all the way as like a left back. And he's not mobile enough to be in that position. He's doing okay, but I don't know. As a center back, I think he's really, really good. But so far,
I think he's gotten burned quite a few times against other teams that I'm like, Pep's not going to be happy about how easy somebody went around him. I just remember, the World Cup, and I know it was Messi, but Messi completely toasted him during the World Cup, right? And then everyone was saying his performances were really, really good. And then he came to Manchester City, and ever since he's been at Manchester City, I just feel like he's gotten exposed a little bit. And I think long term, Manchester City is not going to work out for him. He is really young, though.
He is really young, and he has a lot of experience. And I also think he's trying to learn, because we've talked about this before too. I think he's trying to learn Pep's system, and Pep's even changing up what they do because he's now starting. Like in their last game, they started with 4 center backs and Kyle Walker as a right back. Like it's an odd play, like an odd grouping of players to put out there. That part of me thinks too, since they don't have a true 6 protecting, he gets himself into these positions where a lot of times Rodri makes those runs and will cover wingers instead of Guardiola. So then Rodri checks out wide and Guardiola pinches in. If Rodri's out there, but without a true 6 to go make those runs, I think that might be some of the problems too. But I'm surprised to hear you say that a little bit.
Yep.
But
was it a mistake for Pep to let go of the 3 players he let go to like Arsenal and Chelsea? So Sterling, Gabriel, even Mars to Saudi Arabia.
Laporte.
You're getting rid of 4 or 5 players where they don't have to be starters per se, but key players because you need the depth in the Premier League. You need that depth in order to be champions. And right now, when you look at Man City, they're starting to look like a Liverpool side trying to play 18-year-olds from the academy because it's like, where do these players go? So in these crunch times, you're down 1-0 against Aston Villa and you put Oscar Bob in.
Yeah.
Nothing against Oscar, like he's a young kid, but you're thinking of like back in the day, Jack Wilshere, Grealish isn't coming.
Right.
Mars isn't coming if Grealish is not performing. So
well, I think that the problem for Manchester City was when they do have all this depth, that comes with the issue of players want more playing time. Mm-hmm. So all of these players that left, I don't think all of them was necessarily Pep saying you have to go. Most of it was these players saying I'm good enough to play anywhere else in the world except Manchester City. Not that they felt that, but that's what Pep felt. So they're like, I could just go anywhere else and play. So that's what I'm going to do. So I think that's the problem with Manchester City is that even though they did really well, these players need to go somewhere else. And then Pep is kind of like left with, I can't guarantee you all of the playing time because I have a lot of good players. So if you want to go, you can go. And Pep is one of those guys that says, I'm not going to beg you to stay here. If you want to go, you can go. So it just unfortunately happened that multiple players decided to go. And now when you have a couple of injuries and a couple of your key players out, now you're kind of left
scrambling.
Yeah.
I also think too, part of it, I mean, let's call it what it is. They're coming off a treble-winning season in arguably the hardest Premier League season of all time with the World Cup right in the middle of it. I could also see some of these players just getting to a point where it's just burnt out, tired, like physical and mental, just like, man.
Just don't say they're complacent because Pep is going to come have a go.
Oh, I don't think that. I mean, I don't think that by any means. But at some point, it wears on you mentally and physically.
Oh, 100%. I mean, Liverpool's the perfect example of 2 years ago when they went all the way and the same players played over and over and over, and you just get burnt out. Mm-hmm. You can't.
Here's what I also think is that to do what people are asking Manchester City to do, like it's a normal thing, is crazy to me. You can be on top of the world for so long and perform at such a high level, win the treble last year. Before that, win the league. How many times have they won the league in the last 5 years?
I think it's 4 or 5, yeah.
4 out of the 5.
And they have a couple of bad games, and people are like, oh, Manchester City's complacent and stuff.
Well, one loss, Aston Villa, or Arsenal too, but...
It's like the law of nature, that at some point, you're not going to perform as well as you have been performing over the last few years.
Yep.
Like they can't sustain this for a decade.
But that's the thing.
We say that, and they're close,
right?
But
then people criticize them when they don't do it.
But that's the thing with Man City. I think, like if you're telling me that about a Liverpool team, where you don't spend the money, like I'll get it because you're like, oh, the same players. We're accustomed to Man City always going in the transfer market and buying and buying and buying. So this problem right now never occurs.
Because they very rarely sell like this.
Yeah, it's very rare that you get rid of for Man City. Like it's not about getting rid of. It's more about bringing back in. Because you get rid of 5 or 6 players that were key to your team, winning trebles and Champions Leagues and Premier Leagues, and now you didn't bring in that many. You Haaland, Alvarez in the past 2 years,
and Doku.
Guardiola. That's it. Doku, like.
But they didn't bring a. I guess they tried to bring in, I think, a replacement for Gundogan and Nunez. I thought they could replace him with Nunez and Rico Lewis, and neither one are working out to the same degree. Even though Rico Lewis is he's great. He's great, just young, but
Pep
great.
said he doesn't think Nunes' first touch is good enough. So it's like, it's tough. It's definitely tough because it's a gamble. You can spend the money. It doesn't guarantee that these players are going to work out.
Yeah.
So, and as of right now, a lot of the players that were supposed to be brought in for replacements of the players that have performed are not up to the level, which they're only 6 points off. So it's still a long way to go for Man City.
I think it's just kind of, if I was Manchester City, I'd feel like it's a little bit unfair to be held to those standards, which is a good thing for them, that they're being held to such high standards. To be honest, they're being held to a standard that's higher than any of the Premier League teams currently right now. I think you can start criticizing them when they end up in 5th or 6th place at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But right now, some of the criticisms for the fact that Manchester City is going to win their next 10 out of 12 games.
Did you see what Pep said?
About him winning the league again this year?
Yeah. That was before
that. That was before
So do you think that's changed now?
What did he say?
He said, looking at everything, all the games we played, we're going to win I think we're going to win the Premier League.
Yeah. Which is
I think he's still, at the end of the day, think about it, they're playing without De Bruyne. They've missed Rodri for a good chunk of the season.
Yeah, the 4 games.
They're the thing that's so dangerous about them. They're one of the only teams that can go on a 8, 9, 10 game winning streak against anyone in the league.
That's what I'm saying.
And they'll be in a good spot. And I mean, they still have to play. They're going to host Arsenal. Have you played them yet?
Yep, 1-1.
Where at?
Emirates. Emirates.
At the Etihad?
Etihad, yeah.
You're right. Yep. So they have to go play at Anfield. But I mean, if they beat Arsenal, now they're 3 points back.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a long way to go.
And they did it last year, right? They were in a similar position last year when they were dropping points at the beginning and Arsenal was flying. Where at a certain point, Arsenal was like 6 or 7 points or even more than that.
We were 8, I think, in like January or February, yeah.
And then Manchester City went on a crazy run. So that's the thing about Manchester City is that you know that they're going to do that. You know that they're not going to have a bad season.
Yeah, you know
they're just going to have a bad run of games before they go crazy and win a bunch of games.
And they lose early. They seem to always, when they lose early.
That's true.
Maybe not.
But the difference this year, I think, is the fact that they will have to catch multiple teams. Because I don't see Liverpool slowing down unless there's an injury. I don't see Arsenal slowing down unless there's an injury. And it will be, I think we'll finally get back to a multi-horse race this year. Which
Aston Villa.
This weekend will be crucial for Aston Villa. Because if they can get a result against Arsenal, they're there.
So that's the good thing I think about this year is that, first of all, there's multiple teams challenging for the title. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Tottenham is starting to slowly ease their way out of that conversation.
What is it, last 4 games, 4 losses?
Tottenham and Newcastle both are.
Or no, 1 tie against
sliding
City.
fast.
It's like 1 tie in the last 5, and then all
last 5 games they've lost 4, no wins in 5, and lost 4 and drawn 1.
So the good thing is that they have multiple teams. Liverpool's doing really well. Arsenal's doing really well. Wonder how long Aston Villa can keep it up. Manchester United's pushing to get into the top 4. So I think it is good for the Premier League that we're back to the old ways of who's going to win the Premier League. Mm-hmm. You can name 5 teams that can do it, whereas in the last 5 or 6 years, Manchester City is going to win the Premier League. Mm-hmm. Or can this team beat Manchester City to the Premier League? But typically it hasn't happened because Manchester City's won so many. So I think it is good for the Premier League that we're starting to see that. Agreed. People are going to be a little bit more interested in following the action. But you can't really worry too much as a Manchester City fan because you know what they're going to do. They're going to bounce back. They're going to get a bunch of wins, and they're going to be in the title race once again.
Yep.
And if not, the owners are going to say, who do we need to buy and what do we need to do?
They're going to spend a bunch of money in January and put themselves in a great spot to finish strong.
And you have Pep. And as long as you have Pep, you're not going to just be able to buy expensive players. You're going to be able to buy players that fit into the system that you can coach, that he can coach a certain way to get results.
I will say this to finish off this Man City talk. You know, I'm a Twitter person.
Yes.
I follow a lot of
Georgie loves Twitter.
I follow a lot of City accounts, like big accounts, like fan ran accounts. Mm-hmm. I would say
with your burner account.
No, my real one. I don't have anything, right? But a lot of them have turned their backs on a lot of the players. It's this is the first year I have seen that they're just like this player doesn't belong to the city, blah, blah, blah. I have not seen that in 5 years. So
well, that's what happens when you don't have a good run of games.
Yeah,
for
but
any team.
Every year I feel they have decent, like a bad run of games, and nobody's ever come out and said, "Oh, this guy doesn't belong." Or so it's very interesting to see. And Pep is kind of feeling the pressure, going to pundits,
feeling the pressure.
I know.
So the next team I want to talk about a little bit is Tottenham. Their last win.
Go on, mate.
Their last win was against Crystal Palace on October 27th.
Wow.
Since then, they lost to Chelsea 4-1, Wolves 2-1, Aston Villa 2-1. They tied Manchester City 3-3, and then they lost to West Ham 2-1. All right. So this is what I don't like. I hate the people that back Ange so much, even though they know that his style is not like his They like him because of his philosophy and his whole "we're going to be who we are regardless of whatever." How long can you do that before you realize that it's just it's not working? How long do you realize, okay, maybe we should change things up considering we've lost the last 5 or 6 games?
The reason why I agree with you and I disagree. So I agree in terms of right now they should have changed because of the injuries, suspensions, whatever. Most of your team is out according
Yeah, they've been unlucky with the injuries and the red cards.
So if that happens, you have to adjust and make your team play a certain way. You can't just play with the same style, same everything, and expect your third string player to be doing the same exact job as the main player that you have. So I agree with you in that sense. However, I do think Spurs long term are going to be fine in terms of I think he's.
Once everybody gets back healthy.
Yeah, once everybody's back healthy, they're going to have a transfer window or two, maybe over the summer, preseason, a full 2 preseasons with Ange, and I think they're going to be fine long term. But these run of games, you have to adjust. It doesn't matter. I know they have suspensions, injuries, but you just have to adapt and be a bit different than how you're accustomed to playing. I mean, the Chelsea game says it all.
Well, that's the part that bothers me, right?
Yeah.
I see. I think that you have to stick to your core beliefs. Yeah, you might change your tactics every once in a while, but when you look at the people that they've lost, I think we all knew if James Maddison went down, it was going to be detrimental to their season because he was involved in almost all of their goals, whether he was scoring or assisting. And then he goes down, and in the same game, Van de Ven goes down, who has been unreal for them in terms of a central defender and being able to really shut down great strikers, and he's adapted to the Premier League really well. That if I'm Ange, I'm looking at the season and saying, well, we're probably not going to win anything, but if I can stick to how I want to play, get more people out there experiencing how I want to play, once we get some of these players back, we might be in a good spot. I'm not too mad at him for sticking to it and going for it.
Not even the Chelsea game?
The high line with 9 players?
I will. That's where I'll say, okay. The high line with 9 players, it just wasn't, it wasn't working. At first, I was like, okay, I can respect this to a degree. I thought they might do it on random possessions, and not just the whole time and just allow breakaway after breakaway after breakaway. But no, I'm not opposed to it too much because I think long term it reminds me a little bit of how Arteta ran things for Arsenal when he first came. A lot of our Premier League games, we put ourselves in bad positions. We gave up bad goals. He adjusted for league cup game or for cup games the FA Cup. I think one of the reasons why we won the FA Cup that year was because he did tactically change and we would park the bus and try and score on the counter. But in a lot of the league games, he let us play, and it hurt in the short term, but I also think it's why now the players really understand the way he wants to play, and it's starting to come second nature. Even at the goal we were talking about that Odegaard scored, not against Luton, but the week before, those passing patterns that happen so quickly don't come unless it's been drilled into you in training, but also getting those reps in game.
I think it's foolish. I'll tell you what. I agree with Georgie. This is what I'm saying. I do definitely think every great manager has a philosophy and they're set on their ways. For the most part, they adjust and they make little adjustments here. And that's the part that bothers me is that he doesn't make any adjustments. He says this is the way we're going to play regardless of whatever's happening, and that's what really bothers me.
But so it's funny you say that though, because question for you, and I think Georgie might laugh at this, but if you look at what he doesn't change really for any game. But you know what he's trying to do. It's clear. They have a clear way forward. But on the other hand, we talk so much trash to Ten Hag, who is almost the opposite. He tactically changes every game. You don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what United is going to show up. Are they going to start with these players or those players? How are they going to play? Are they going to attack or are they not? And in a 4 days time frame, they go from a super defensive performance against Newcastle away, completely and totally change the tactics and are on the front foot against Chelsea. He's getting results, but with no clear long-term vision on where they're going. And just not getting results, but with at least a clear-cut vision on where you're going. You're very rarely going to have both. If you had to pick one or the other, which one do you want?
Well, that's the thing is I don't think you have to pick one or the other. I think you have to, like, I respect Ange for saying this is the way we want to play. This is the way we want to play. But if you're down, for example, we've all been in games like this where we talk about, like, our philosophy is, okay, we're going to build out of the back, we're going to try and possess, and we're going to have a clear game plan on how we want to get to the attacking third. If you're down 1-0 in a game and you haven't created any opportunities, and you have to chase the game if you want to stay in it, what do? Towards the end, you start putting numbers forward and you start pumping the ball along because you have to score. So
you don't trust the process and say, hey, we're going to get there?
No, because there's some games where you have to make the adjustment and even the players are going to be looking at you like this isn't working. So what do? We need to do something. It's okay to tell the players this is how we want to play, but at the same time, you have to read the situation to understand that we need to make changes in order to win games, because that's the whole point. The whole point isn't to establish a philosophy and a style of play. The whole point is to win games. So for me, it bothers me when he's just like, this is who we're going to be, when it's clear that who you're trying to be or who you're going to be in that game is going to lose you the game. Against Chelsea, it's clear that no matter what happens, there's a 99% chance that Tottenham lose that match because of the way that they played.
They also had two. I mean,
so but you got to admit,
two players.
Right. But Liverpool were down 2 players against Tottenham, and Liverpool almost got a draw. And the only reason they didn't was in the last minute there was an own goal. Otherwise, they get a draw.
They also have Alisson in goal, standing on his head for part of that game.
But when you're looking at the possibilities of that game, where Liverpool, what are the chances that they tie?
At the end of the game, the result was the same. So what does it matter?
Because the chances are higher. So, like with Liverpool...
But the result was the same. And the difference is at least Ange has now... If the result's going to be the same either way and it's not going to be great, I at least want to set myself up and build for the future.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the result wasn't always... Like, the chances... So, if I tell you to do something that has a 99% probability that it's going to fail, or a 40% probability that it's going to fail, which one are you going to choose? For me, that game against Liverpool, there was a very high chance, especially towards the end, that Liverpool comes out with a tie. Whereas the other one, for me, there's no chance on it. No chance.
Yeah, well,
so, like, what would you? But I guess when you compare, I keep going back to, and I look in my head, or I think in my head, just comparing Spurs and Manchester United, both newer managers, changing their teams, building something really from nothing. Because neither one of that, like Harry Kane's obviously left, so Tottenham has to reform themselves into what they want to be. And from a point standpoint, we're 15 games in, and they're on the same amount of points.
Yeah.
And at least Ange has more big players injured, and he's building for the future. And I think they're clearly progressing towards a good destination. Where Ten Hag is kind of doing the opposite and trying just to, I think, get points and get results.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is this, is that I agree with you on the long-term plan. I think that's how you should go about it. I think Ange should say this is how we want to play and this is what our philosophy is going to be. But when you're down to 9 men, the philosophy has to go out the window. You cannot play the same way. You have to change something up. And I'm not saying change it long term. I'm saying change it for 20 minutes to try and get yourself the highest chance of winning the game. Come after the game, go into the locker room and say, boys, that's not how we wanted to end the game, or that's not how we wanted to play, and that's not the adjustments that we wanted to make. But fair play for making the adjustments that gave us the best possibilities of winning the game. So like he was, first of all, he said that right after the interview. He said, this is who we are and this is how we're going to play. And then recently, they asked him a question about his philosophy, and he said, I think when managers say, this is the way I want to play, but I don't have the players, you should just do it, mate. Don't worry if you don't have the players. And I disagree with that as well. I think if you, again, long term, it takes time to reform a club and to restructure to get to the point where you want to be. Klopp did it, Manchester City did it with Pep. Klopp said, this is who we want to be in 3-4 years' time. We need a little bit of time to build it. But even during that whole time that Klopp was trying to restructure Liverpool and turn it into what it is now, during games he had to make adjustments to give himself the best result. I just fear that Ange is going to go stick to his philosophy so much that he's going to be out of a job in a couple months, because at the end of the day, the results are the most important. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a long-term fix or a long-term philosophy. I just think that there are going to be some moments every once in a while where you have to make adjustments, and if you don't,
you don't think he's making it. Like, I mean, you keep going back to the game where they had 9 players. Obviously, I think we can agree that he got that one wrong. Outside of that, it's not like they're getting blown out in these games. No, and they're getting. I mean, against some of the teams they've played, they've gotten some pretty decent results. Yeah, he's making adjustments, I think, for the game, but he's also not sacrificing the long term. I don't know. I guess we can agree to disagree on it, because I don't think we're going to get anywhere, and we'll probably sit here all night. But he's.
Yeah, I just think of that game.
If I was a fan, I would much rather. I guess I'm thinking of it from a fan. I'd much rather be a fan of Tottenham right now and where they're going than of United. Like, you've lost your best player, arguably your best player in club history, your captain, and you're thinking, man, this season's going to be terrible. And you come out and you're top of the Premier League after, 10 games, right?
But my question to that is, could it be just a new manager bounce? Because that's what usually happens. A new manager comes in, new style, players are energized, everybody's happy, and then they go up and they do really well, and then they start to slow down. And then that's where, not saying that's where they are now because of the injuries, obviously, but it could potentially be, even when they do come back, like, for example, if Spurs are not in the top 4, that's going to hurt them long term. Because then you cannot bring in players. Yeah. You cannot bring in the big-time players to get you Champions Leagues or Premier Leagues, whatever you want to, and money. Money is the biggest one. So you don't finish top 4 in a season where there's a lot of teams that are challenging now coming up that are actually doing pretty good. All those points, we were talking about 5 games, they got 1 point. You make...
The funny part is, so it's the team that got the point against? Manchester City. Mm-hmm. So that's the other part of this too. Yeah. We're saying how bad they were. They did play Chelsea. They played Man City. They played Aston Villa. They played through 2 top 4 teams.
I just think... I think at the end of it, what I'm thinking is that he just has to be very careful, because it could get to the point, especially in a league like the Premier League, where you're a team that's one of the top teams. It could get to the point where next thing you know, we might start talking about and just losing 50% of the locker room, because regardless of how much they believe in him, when you're not getting results, players will only believe in you so much. So I wonder how long this can happen before people start turning on him and saying, you know what? Your philosophy is actually not working. We cannot go down this path with you any longer.
I would say they have to probably get 6 or 7 points of their next 3 games, and they host Newcastle, they're away to Nottingham Forest, and then they host Everton. And those are the next 3 games before Christmas. That I think if they get 7 points out of those, plus 6-7 points.
I don't think they get 7 points out of that.
You don't think? I mean,
I'm just thinking, like, let's say in a month or 2 time, Tottenham is. Or New Year's, let's say, Tottenham is, or going into New Year, Tottenham is sitting in like 6th or 7th spot. Now the conversation is, do you really believe in Ange that much?
Yes.
Or again, like Georgie was saying, is it the new manager bounce that typically happens, and then it's?
I do like the feel. If I'm a Spurs fan, I feel good in terms of it's a new manager, a new style. It looked really good, but I feel like that's what a lot of fans do when the new manager first comes in.
Especially if they're getting results.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I'm biased because they screwed Liverpool over in that game. So
here's the thing. So in a couple weeks, we could be saying Ange is losing the locker room, or it starts getting better, and then people are like, okay, yes, let's invest in this long term, and this is the right way for us to go right now. So that's Tottenham. Let's move on let's move on. Shall we talk? We don't have to talk about Arsenal very long, other than they won me some money this past.
I thought this was.
weekend.
I thought what you were gonna do in the whole BS segment. That's what I thought you were gonna call. I thought you were gonna call me out about being in Camp Raya, because the only reason why that game was close was because of him.
You think so?
Well, yeah, it was his fault that I think Arsenal runs.
Okay. That's what I was
Arsenal
gonna
runs.
say.
Yeah, Arsenal runs away with the game if
Yeah.
he doesn't make those two terrible mistakes on the second and third
I
goal.
thought you were seriously about to say that
No,
he kept them in the game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
kept
so-
Luton in the game. Yeah.
So
That's talking point again.
we've talked about it multiple times. Raya versus
Ramsdale.
Ramsdale. I was even forgetting his name there. He hasn't played in so damn long. So Raya versus Ramsdale. Ramsdale comes on because Raya is cup tied, so he can't play. Ramsdale has a bad performance, bad first half, bad performance. And so everybody's like, okay, we made the right decision. Or Arteta made the right decision. Raya comes on and has a
Worst
nightmare.
performance.
Let's be honest. It was a nightmare.
It's terrible.
Both were. Yeah.
So now what do you do?
I think
Now you have. This is the problem now.
now you can't switch.
Arsenal could lose the title because of this. This could be a reason why Arsenal
Because
loses
of
the
this conversation or because of Raya?
Because
I doubt because
both.
of our conversation on this podcast.
No. I'm saying because of like the
two
whole
go-
drama surrounding
Yes.
Ramsdale and Raya.
Now you have two goalkeepers who are short of confidence
Yeah.
and have no idea what's next. And that is not a good place to be. Usually you have one where it's like, okay, confidence is here. The other one's like, man, like Raya, he was flying high because he's coming in knowing that he's going to be the player to start. And obviously bringing in the Brentford coach, everything was already set. Now you keep making those mistakes. Champions is a mistake. Well, it's not the first two. I would say he has at least 5-6 mistakes.
He's had multiple mistakes.
He's had
He
a
has.
few.
Yeah. And
These were the ones that really hurt. Thank God they didn't cost us points.
if that game finishes in a 3-3
Oh,
or what
or
2-2,
three-
what is it 2-2
4-3. 4-3.
Yeah, if it finishes 3-3 and they don't score, if Rice does not bail out Arsenal in the last second,
Yeah.
we're sitting here talking about Arsenal's downfall because of Raya, because there's no coming back from that.
And also, if we're not playing against Luton, if we're playing against City,
Yeah.
Chelsea, United, Tottenham, any one of those,
Yeah.
that result probably
Hell,
isn't a
even
4-3
even
for Arsenal.
Everton or
Right.
like
So I guess the question is, Joe, do you keep Raya or do you put Ramsdale in now?
I think you have to stay with Raya, knowing the fact that if you're gonna make a change and go back to Ramsdale, that has to then be almost for the rest of the season. To me, I stick with Raya to show both of them like, hey, I'm
Double
giving. You make mistakes, you keep playing. We're gonna go, but if something happens, I think he has to switch to Ramsdale, and he has to sit Ramsdale down and say, I'm going to go with you for a bit, regardless of whether you make a mistake or not. Play free, and I'm going to back you. But to your point, both of them now, regardless of who you put in, are going to be second guessing what they do. And when you play out of the back as much as you do, and you have people second guessing, I'm just nervous we're going to see Raya make the mistakes he made, and potentially make the mistakes that Ramsdale was making, where like the half kick and then passing it to the other team, or the half throw and then throwing it just like directly into the ground. So it's a slippery slope now.
Georgie.
The reason why you have to, there's two ways to look at it. One, you have to keep Raya, because if you take him out now, his confidence is absolutely gone. Now you're like he's gonna be done for a while. The problem with that is Arteta looks like a hypocrite if he keeps him on, because that was the main issue that he had, saying, "Oh, whoever performs, that's who it's gonna be." And I want to make the interview he made 60 minutes in. I want to make the subs if the goalkeeper's not doing this or this or this. So now, if you don't and you don't give Ramsdale the chance, you could be in a way losing some of the players. Like, yo, you kind of said one thing, now you're doing this. So it doesn't look good on Arteta. However, the decision is he has to stay in. Raya has. Raya would have never been my priority to start anyway. But at this moment, you don't really have a choice. If you keep swapping, he's going to be right, but it's not going to look good goalkeepers wise. That both of them are going to be completely screwed. Now, at least you have to back Raya, give him the confidence, and look like a hypocrite. So it's
So the thing that I think about is that if he does switch to Ramsdale right now, and Ramsdale has another bad performance, now you're just like, you look like you just have no idea what you're doing as a manager, because you can't pick one.
You can't go back and forth every single game.
I'll tell you what unfair advantage Raya's had over Ramsdale. that makes me feel bad for Ramsdale is the fact that Raya has had the advantage of getting multiple games, whereas Ramsdale has not had that opportunity. Raya has come on, made some mistakes early in the season. There's some games where he had some questionable, again, didn't cost him until the Luton game. But he's had multiple games, whereas Ramsdale was like, as soon as Raya came in, first of all, Ramsdale didn't get any games. And then he's gotten one game. He's gotten one game since then, and he's made some mistakes.
When we signed Raya, Ramsdale started.
Well, I'm saying when he committed to Raya, when he committed to
Raya went on,
as soon as Raya went on, he didn't give a chance to Ramsdale. When Ramsdale, it wasn't because Ramsdale wasn't performing well. It was just because he said, "All right, Raya is going to be the number one." So my thought was like it's unfair to Ramsdale because you're like he's made mistakes, I've made mistakes, but you've given him more games to sort that out. Whereas me, I only got one game, and then now I'm back on the bench.
Well, that's what we talked about, though. It was never 50-50. It was 100%.
It was always going to be.
So here's my thought. My thought is you take a big risk and you put Ramsdale in. And I agree with Joe where you have to say, okay, Ramsdale, maybe not the whole season because that's still...
You're saying put him in now?
You still have 18 games, yeah. You still have right, somewhere around that. You still have a lot of games. Half of the games.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
20, yeah.
So you still have a long part of the season. So my thought is you sit Ramsdale down and you say, look, I need you for the next few games. I need you to have good performances, and it's up to you whether you stay in goal or not. I am not going to commit to you for the rest of the season, but I don't want to put all the pressure by saying if you don't perform next game, I'm going to put Raya back in.
Yeah. Ramsdale's last game was against United. I just looked it up if you were wondering. Sorry, go on.
No, but what I'm saying is that so you say that to Ramsdale so that at least you can say that I've given both goalkeepers the same amount of opportunities to show me who's the better goalkeeper. And then if Ramsdale is not performing well at all and he keeps making mistakes after 3 or 4 matches, then you go back to Raya because you know that Raya's been making the same mistakes recently anyway. So it's not like Raya's had one bad game and then now he's trying to switch him back. Raya's had some questionable games, and this one just showed that it's clear there is no number one at Arsenal. So for me, that's what you do. And if you're going to stick with Raya, then you have to let Ramsdale go. You have to have a conversation with Ramsdale and say, I'm sorry, but you're not a goalkeeper that I see as a good fit for the club. And you go find a number 2. You go find what's the guy's name from Manchester City, Scott Carson or whatever. Yeah. You find one of those who's just like, you're just going to be our backup in case our number 1 gets hurt. He's going to play all the games. Because otherwise you're clearly showing that you have no faith and no belief that Ramsdale is going to be your goalkeeper at all. Because Raya's made so many mistakes that you're letting slide. When you put Ramsdale in, he gets one bad game and all of a sudden back in the bench. And I get why he played that game because he was never going to play that game anyway if Raya wasn't cup tied or whatever. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to keep Raya in, you got to let Ramsdale go.
Well, you could also make the argument though to try and keep both for as long as you can, so we don't end up Arsenal doesn't end up in a spot that Liverpool's in right now. Because then when you lose your goalkeeper and Alisson's out for a little while, that could be detrimental to you guys. Absolutely detrimental.
Yeah, well, you find a replacement first, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I don't. I think Ramsdale's gone. I don't want. I think Arteta's way too stubborn to back out.
The one piece of criticism that I have for Arteta that I don't feel like he's handled that situation well at all. I think most of the other situations, the way he protects the team, the way he protects the players, I think for the most part he's done a good job. Other than that situation, I felt like that was unfair. I was unfair in my opinion.
Because he lied. He said, whoever performs better. No. You literally brought Raya with his goalkeeping coach for a reason. It's not a 50-50. Also, coming up the weekend against Aston Villa, big game, Raya will be in goal.
We'll see who's... I mean, maybe...
Raya, 100%. We'll see.
100%.
We'll see.
Imagine if he puts Ramsdale in.
If he puts Ramsdale in, this could be... He can make you eat your words, Georgie. He could make you eat your words.
Georgie will be on the BS segment.
We are on the topic. I know it's Luton. But what a comeback from the Gunners, huh? What a freaking comeback, man.
I was so scared.
Declan Rice, obviously Jude Bellingham was the best signing of the summer. I would argue that Declan Rice is close to that with what he brings to the team.
I think Declan Rice is probably the next best signing.
He is amazing.
I'm gonna say this, and I don't say it lightly. I'm a Liverpool fan. Declan Rice can be what Van Dijk was to Liverpool.
Like the impact.
The impact he's made.
Like the person that just kind of was that last piece that solidifies
the
everything.
last piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I know with Van Dijk, it was more Alisson and Van Dijk together, but the type of a player, the character that like a Van Dijk, Declan Rice brings is you can't find that.
The work rate, the leadership, the ability.
You can't find that. Big goals. He scored what three goals now in the last second of the game to win you guys points.
I think Declan Rice is going to be an Arsenal legend, especially if Arsenal manage to win the Premier League. Yeah. I think people will be agreeing with that point, that at the end of the season, if Arsenal are lifting the trophy, it's because of Declan Rice.
Yep.
I'm very excited to see England this summer in the Euros.
That's what everybody says until the tournament's over and they got knocked out.
Declan, could you imagine playing against that midfield? How annoying it would be with Declan Rice and Jude both in there together.
Don't worry, Jordan Henderson's going to start somehow.
Calvin Phillips will be in there with him.
All right, so just really quickly, Newcastle getting spanked by Everton. Not really spanked. I mean, a couple of the goals came late, right?
Yeah. I mean,
some of the goals came late.
Trippier giving the...
Bad performance from an individual. I mean, it was a bad performance overall, but yeah, he gave up 2 of the goals.
Nick Pope, injured.
That's another one.
So that's a big goalkeeper that's out.
Yeah.
It plays a difference.
I still hold my statement that our England has no world-class goalkeepers, and they haven't for a long time. Nick Pope is good.
They have 3 good ones, but no great one. Yeah,
he's not Alisson. He's not Ederson.
Yeah. Ederson's having a nightmare lately.
He's struggling to.
All right, so I think that wraps up the Premier League recently. So we'll do the next podcast right after the weekend or at some point to talk about the upcoming games. We'll see what happens with all of our takes and all of our predictions regarding.
Are we not going to talk about my boy's assist? Like, what's going on?
Listen, this is how bad it's gotten. Listen to this. Georgie is excited about Darwin Nunez assist.
What? What do you mean?
You're excited about his assist?
Well, did you see it?
I'm saying, like, people are excited about Haaland scoring a hat trick.
Well, I don't see that happening.
Or people,
that hasn't happened in a while.
I'm just saying, people get excited about these things. You're excited about Darwin.
Did you see it though?
We're talking about practice. You're talking about practice right now.
He's excited about everything.
We're not talking about scoring goals.
He's excited about his haircuts. He's excited about how he ties his boots.
Did you see the assist?
I didn't see the assist.
Did you see it?
No.
Okay.
We purposely don't watch.
I don't care.
You see, but
you force us to watch these things on repeat.
I'm not gonna
tell me that he scored 2 goals and an assist.
No. The reason why
are you talking about his assist against Sheffield?
It's the reason why I liked it. He came on. The reason I like it's not because of the assist. Assist is one thing. The man sprints 30 yards, tackles from behind, gets the ball.
Hold on. Let me stop you there.
No one's debating Darwin and his work rate.
Ball that who lost?
He lost it.
Okay, so he lost the ball. So it's like a goolkeeper giving the ball to the other team and then making an amazing save after that.
No. What?
He loses a ball and he gets it back. That's unfair. That's BS.
What?
Add it to the BS
You're a coach. You're telling me if one of your players, what do you always tell your players? You lose the ball, what do you do?
Yeah, you're the first one to try and win it back. Of course.
Yeah, and then when they win it back, what do you do?
I'm not going to applaud you. You
do? Yeah, you do. What do you mean? You applaud them.
You can't.
Of course.
I will.
Yes. Okay.
You do applaud them when they win the ball.
Of course. Because you applaud them when they win the ball.
But you can't make it seem like it's the best thing since sliced bread because he righted his own wrong.
He went to cross the ball. He lost it. Like, what do you like? That's not.
So what I'm saying is, you say, "Hey, well done on getting it back, but next time,
you don't say that.
Don't lose the ball." Yes, you do. At that level, you do. At that level, the manager says, "Hey,
the guy gets you the second goal. Well, the game was over anyway, but he gets you the second goal, the assist to the second goal after he tracks back, runs his ass off, slides tackle from behind.
Don't leave that part out. Is what I'm saying, George. Don't leave that part out.
What do you mean?
You left that part out. The fact that he lost the ball and then he went to go get it back.
It doesn't matter who loses it. Everybody's gonna lose the ball in the game.
No. But it's the fact that he lost the ball on that play.
Yeah, because he tried to cross it and it got blocked, and then the guy had it. It's all right. It's not like
we're talking about practice here. We're not talking about the game. We're not talking about goals. We're not talking about the sitters that he's missed. We're talking about assists.
This guy, he hates assists. What do you have against assists?
I don't have anything against assists, but you're making it seem like this guy has a man of the match performance because he got an assist.
No, he played like 15 minutes.
I heard it was a good assist. I heard it.
Would you hear that from Georgie?
Georgie.
After
Well,
all the,
I did see. I did see one of the.
He tweeted it at us.
I saw one of the posts that said like Darwin Nunez tracks back and puts in an amazing tackle.
after all this argument,
I'm just saying.
wait.
How far down Nunez has gotten on the standards level?
Oh my God.
Is what bothers me.
I don't hate him as much as Javi does, but I will say,
The
Georgie,
amount
I think
of
you
sitters
do
that he has missed.
overhype what he has brought
Thanks,
to
Joe.
Liverpool
One
so far.
goal
Thanks, Joe. You can
slash
stay on the
assist.
podcast an extra
One
week.
goal slash assist per 90 minutes is not good enough. Over that. That's not good.
No, it's pretty good.
Not when it could be 2.
Oh, it could be 3. It could be 5.
All right, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
This isn't the Darwin Nunez
Is there any way we
podcast.
can
Don't
mute
worry.
Georgie's
Listen,
mic?
Don't worry.
You want to
Darwin.
talk more about this? Bring another Liverpool supporter.
Don't
on
worry, Darwin.
To talk about your fake statistics. All right,
Off the stats.
All right, are we ready for the fun part of the podcast? The best part?
Yeah.
Which
What's
one's
that?
that?
Oh, the fun
Laws of
facts?
the game and
Laws
fun
of the
facts.
game. Oh, here we go.
Hey,
We'll start with laws of the game.
I thought we were going to talk about who's going to get the top 4 or whatever.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
the Premier League
Where people will
predictions.
finish?
Yeah.
Let's finish. Let's talk with that. Let's talk about
Okay.
that real quick. So, just shortly, you don't have to do much explanation because we've been talking about all these teams. Who is going to win the Premier League based on where you see them right now or their potential with players coming back from injuries, things like that, and who finishes in the top 4? Georgie, we'll start with you.
That's tough. It is really tough this year, especially. I'm going to say it's going to be Liverpool and Arsenal challenging for top.
Okay, who wins?
So it's
Who wins?
1 or 2. So I'm going to say Liverpool because I'm a Liverpool fan. Liverpool.
That's unfair because you say Liverpool regardless if they're in 18th spot or in 2nd spot.
Wait, okay, what do you want me to say?
Liverpool could be in 10th place
I do
right
remember,
now,
I think,
and he'll
like
say,
your
Liverpool.
podcast from last season. He's like, yeah, Liverpool will win the league. I'm like, okay.
All right, fair enough, fine, whatever.
We're second. You can't say.
You're right. You're right.
Okay, so Liverpool, Arsenal. I want to say Villa, but I will say Man City. And Aston Villa, just because I want them in there. Just because I want them in there.
I'm going to go Arsenal, City, Liverpool. United is going to squeak into the top 4.
I'm very close to that. I'm going to say Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Manchester United. That's how
Okay,
it's
you know
gonna
what?
finish.
I'm changing mine. Manchester City does not finish top 4.
Get the out of town.
Just because I wanted to.
Just so we can cut this clip
I
in a
just
year
wanna
from
speak
now.
it.
Hey, we got the BS from Georgie today.
I just want to speak it into existence. That's the only reason.
Hey, I
will
hope
say
you're
this.
right.
Though. I will say this. This is the first season where I think teams are looking at Manchester City and they're like, we're not scared.
Yeah, we can beat them.
We're gonna go head to head, and there's
It'll be different when De Bruyne comes back.
I think this.
Manchester City will bounce back as they always do, as they have been doing for the last 5-6 years of their dominance, where they have a bad spell of games and then they come back to second place or first place.
Good.
Typically first place. All right, so let's move on then. Laws of the game. This one's an easy one. I'm running out of laws of the game. I literally, you know what I did? Is I went to the, I think it was the FA or the IFAB. I think it was the IFAB maybe. And I literally went through the PDF document of the laws of the game
To find random.
to see if I can find like loopholes in certain situations that we didn't expect, because we're running out of those situations. But anyway, here's a one that I thought about, and you guys should be able to get it right away. What is the one law of the game that you can break almost every single time and not get penalized for? And honestly, I'm going to say higher than 99% of the time. While these two think, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you pause this video as usual. Go into the comment section and see if you can get this right before we answer it for you.
Okay, say it again.
There's a bunch of them.
What is the one law of the game that you can break almost every single time and not get penalized for? So there's a few, probably. You could probably think of a couple, but there's one that it's very clear to me that happens in front of everyone's eyes and almost never gets penalized for. And if it does get penalized, it's not actually the proper application of the rule. And it's not something that you can just kind of do like hidden, like the referee won't see it or something like that. It's something that's very clear in front of everyone's eyes. And
Well, yellow cards for people dissent.
nope. Because
Diving?
There's yellow cards all the time for descent.
I was gonna say yellow cards
There's
for
yellow
diving.
cards for diving.
One that I have like 5 that I randomly.
All right, so see if you got them right.
Lifting your legs on a throw-in.
I don't even know what does.
Because I said I don't think it's a rule. You said that you checked it and it is. And we watched that when we
I'm
were watching the
talking at
Newcastle.
all levels of the game. Obviously, we're mostly professional because this is what we focus on. But this rule gets broken all ages, all competition levels. At the youth levels, the throw-in gets penalized all the time.
That's true. So it's
Wow. I honestly thought you guys would be able to get this right away.
well, it could be
Honestly,
anything.
I really have no idea.
Or
Well, you
something.
think about- you
is
think
it
about
something
most
that we won't know is the law of the game?
No, you guys know this one. Clear as day. Ooh, I might be...
Encroachment on a penalty from like the attacking team?
No, because that one gets called all the time.
I see. I don't think that
Same thing with the goalkeeper coming off his
That
line,
one
right?
get the goalkeeper coming off the line, but like the
encroachment, if it's clear, the encroachment gets called. More than 99% of the time does not get penalized. Do you guys give up?
no.
I can give you a hint, but the hint will give it away.
Does that have to do with goalies?
You said the question.
Do you want me to give you a hint or no?
No. I think it has to do with when the goalie has the ball, either the 6-second rule or when they
6
go
second.
or when they kick when they punt it going outside of the box. But
6
6-second rule.
6-second rule.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that in any game? Now think about it. So let's go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi. Goalkeepers typically take, especially if they're wasting time, but even on the normal times when they catch the ball and there's no time wasting, they take more than 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And rarely does it never gets penalized. When have you ever seen a goalkeeper get penalized for taking more than 6 seconds at 6 seconds? You see them getting penalized if they take like 15, 20 seconds sometimes, where the referee will actually give them a yellow card. But have you ever seen it at exactly 6 seconds from the
No.
time they pick up the ball to... And if they did,
Not since I was
people
really
would be
young.
outraged. Can you imagine if a goalkeeper got a yellow card right at 6 seconds? You imagine everybody would be like, what the heck is the referee doing?
I mean, even at 30 seconds, I barely see it. The only game I ever watched was the Liverpool game. Mignolet got penalized.
But did he hold it for 6 seconds?
No, it was like 10, 15, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's still crazy. Like, I mean, I was pissed.
I think they need to. I think
They
they
need to
either
get-
need to rewrite the rule, or they need to start. That is the one rule that I feel like never gets penalized. I mean,
I feel
That
like
rule
the
doesn't get
yellow card one, the only player that I've seen this season so far, after it was made like such a big deal when players do this, was McAllister, the first game of the season at Chelsea.
Oh, with the complaining
Yeah.
about
well,
if
it's
you
like
if
the
you
hand.
show
If you make the
yeah.
hand
if you
signal,
show, if
but that's
you
a
show.
fairly new rule.
Yeah, that's
That's a
this
fairly
year.
new
That's
rule.
this year if you do this. And I don't think I've seen anybody else, even though everybody does it now.
I've seen a few people. I can't remember who it was, but it doesn't happen. It's not consistent. I've seen in
Yeah.
games where 1 minute they'll give it, 1 minute they won't.
So let us know in the comment section if you got it right, but also let us know if you've ever actually seen a referee give a yellow card at 6 seconds or 6.1 seconds for a goalkeeper holding onto the ball.
Javi, because you're gonna ref the Premier League game at some point.
I'll
Are
give
you-
it every single time.
you
I'm going to
give
start
it-
counting. Start the timer real quick.
Can
as
you
soon as we
imagine?
pick it up.
Players, Newcastle will be the only team that has a goalie left. They'll have 2 or
Goalkeepers would
3
be sent
sent
off,
off.
yeah.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
You
Can
get
you
sent
imagine this? They have the sin bin and you apply that rule. You give it to the goalkeeper first after 6 seconds. The whole entire team comes at you. Everybody in the sin bin, go ahead. Bam.
So what is there a max amount of people that can have an orange card at the same
I
time?
have
Like
no
what
idea.
happens if something crazy happens and all of a sudden you
We'll-
give 7 people an orange card? Do you still have to have the minimum players?
We'll talk about the sin bin when they actually put it in a real game, and we'll see
How it goes.
what happens.
crazy.
All right, let's finish with fun facts. So fun facts. Again, I'll ask it as a question, which you're not going to get unless you've actually done the research. Because I don't want to end up on the BS segment of
Unless
this
you've
podcast
actually
again,
done the research.
because I don't want to end up on that segment again, explaining myself and apologizing for my
Fake fun fact that
my
was
fake
a lie.
fun facts. I don't know if this is true, but I couldn't find any research that suggests otherwise. What I'm saying is that I don't think there's any real research done on this, and I was looking for a solid hour online to try and figure this out. So I'm going to ask it as a question.
Okay.
Do you know what the highest jersey number ever worn in a professional match has been? In a sanctioned match. I'm not talking about a charity match. I'm not talking about like a a friendly with no rules. I'm talking about an actual competition. What are the highest jersey number someone has ever worn?
1001.
Who it was?
Oh, jeez.
Who it was?
No
and
chance.
what number it was?
399.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, in the comment section, see if you can guess.
You think we
listen,
get
unless,
that?
unless you know, unless you've seen this specific situation or this game or whatever, you will not know this number.
No.
I mean, it's like pulling a number out of thin air. So I don't want people saying like, oh, I just guessed the right number, because you did not guess the right number. You did your research and then you posted it. So let me know in the comment section if you think you can just guess.
So this could be all BS, but on top of that, you're calling the people out that are saying a random number
Well,
on
what
your
I'm saying
BS.
is that I could not find any other
number higher than this
number
one?
higher than this, and it was even hard to figure out this number specifically. I thought there would be a little bit more hype around it because of it happening. And I'll tell you exactly who it was in a second, but
Oh, I
Yeah,
mean,
452.
on July 15th, 2005,
oh, yeah, I know.
he's going to say it as soon as I say the number, he'll say the number. On July 15th, 2005, when he broke the all-time appearance record for Sao Paulo in the Copa Libertadores versus Atlético Paranaense, Rogerio Ceni, the goalkeeper for Sao Paulo, wore the number 618
For how many appearances he had?
for the breaking the appearance record with 618.
Good for
So
him.
it wasn't an official match against for the Copa Libertadores, which is what I've seen from my research. That's what it suggests. I looked it up on the sites that I found the official statistics. You can find pictures of his jersey, but I don't see any. I saw another one that said some player wore like 180 or something like that, but this is the one that I saw in a professional match.
180 and 200 and 300, isn't that what Mexico does? For their like youth teams? So
For youth teams, for the youth academies,
Yeah,
but
but 650, it was 651, you said?
they don't go that far down. Though. They don't go that far down.
Yeah, but I'm saying for like 180, I can definitely see that. That's
So like in like Mexico and some other countries, if you play for like let's say the U23s, your numbers start from a 1. So instead of like
That makes sense.
if you're number 19, your number is actually 119. Or if you're number 10, you're 110.
Yeah.
And that's how they get them. That's how you know when like a youth player or a reserve player is playing up, when they have those numbers, those really high numbers. But they don't go down all the way to like 700 or 800.
Yeah.
That many levels down.
That makes sense.
So
It was a good one.
that one's pretty interesting, right? Because that's
is.
a weird fun fact that you never really think about.
For sure.
I'll tell you what's another fun fact in regards to that fun fact that's connected. And Georgie's going to love this one. Same year, Sao Paulo won their first ever, their only ever, Club World Cup. Do you know who they beat in that Club World Cup final? Honestly, it's not that hard to beat this team. They're not that good, to be
Liverpool.
honest. Liverpool, baby. They beat Liverpool in 2005 to win the Club World Cup. And this was after, right? This was around the year that Liverpool won the Champions League.
Yeah.
It was the
Yeah.
year after, right?
Yep.
So Sao Paulo won.
No, it was the same year.
Oh, 2004, 2005, right?
Because we won in 2005 in May.
Right.
This
And then
is
you
in
play it in
December.
like this. It's in December?
Yeah, the Club World Cup was December.
Yeah. Interesting fun fact. I'm pretty good at this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty good at this. You guys, I feel like these fun facts and laws of the games have been pretty entertaining.
They have been good.
Until they call you on your BS.
Until they call me on my BS.
Your fake.
We'll find
your
out
fake
who ends up
football
on the
stadium.
BS segment of the podcast next time around.
I don't think there's anybody because nobody really said.
You did twice.
Well,
What did I
sometimes
say?
I forget, but that's why we record it.
Oh, about Man City?
I'll probably end up on it for the Paul Scholes take.
Oh, Paul Scholes for
I'm
sure.
gonna get ripped
yeah.
apart on TikTok. That's fine.
Oh, you're going to get ripped
Fine.
apart.
I hope people understand what I was trying to say. But anyway, I don't care.
They
I don't
won't.
care.
They
I don't
won't.
care. Maybe on the next episode you'll find me apologizing right here.
TikTok is heartless, man.
They
It
are.
is very heartless. But anyway, that's it for this podcast. Make sure you guys follow us on all the social media channels, and we will catch you on the next one.
When is the next one?
Soon.
Soon.
Peace.